Tonight, we are here for Aimee Mayo's book, Talking to the Sky. I'm Dennis Quaid, and my lovely wife, Laura, is also with us. Aimee Mayo is the dark brown-haired girl that you see in front of you. And she's written the most incredible book about a songwriter in Nashville and growing up in a very disturbed world with her family. Growing up with someone who was bipolar. And the book is a story that covers Nashville from the late 80s through kind of the mid 2000s. It's an incredible book. My wife Laura found it first, and she read it like in a day and said I had to read it. I was very interested, and I read it in a day myself because I couldn't put it down. And it really captures what Nashville is really all about, which is the songwriter.
It's funny because I can't believe you read that book in a day.
Yeah.
I love that guys like the book. That's like a big thing to me.
Well, it really read like almost like a script, like a movie script, like I was watching the movie right there. And we loved it so much that Laura was the first to read it and immediately saw it as a film, and I did too. And we sought Aimee out. We didn't know Aimee at the time, and we sought her out.
Now we're all best friends.
And
we met earlier this year, and she's one of our favorite people in the whole world. There's nobody like Aimee. And
this book has brought so many awesome people into my life. It's like I've made so many friends, and it was such a nightmare to write that it's like the bucket of gold at the end. Just
it took you what, 10 years to write it?
15.
15. Oh yeah.
I told you that I always joke it's the only book that took longer is the Bible. And it's like I think I had 2 nervous breakdowns. I had one of them in front of Tony Robbins, that guy. Well, that was crazy.
What I loved about it is all of us have grown up in families, a lot of things that we don't tell everybody that happened to us. We think it only happens to us, that our crazy families. And it's, I saw myself reading your book in your story. That was the thing that hit me. And I think anybody really would, it's like, oh, somebody else went through the same thing. They understand. And you wind up, it's so tragic in one way, but at the same time, I'm belly laughing at the same time because it's true. And that's what comedy is. It's truth.
I love this saying I heard, comedy's tragedy plus time.
That's right. Yes. 15
so
years.
I had
right?
a bunch of crazy shit that turned into comedy.
So why did you write the book, and what is it about? For people who
I wrote the book. Here's the weird thing. I never knew why I was writing the book. I just felt like if I didn't get the book out, that it was going to kill me. And physically, it was awful. I mean, it's so hard when you feel, I'm already going to start crying. It's so hard when you feel pulled to do something and you don't know why you're doing it. You know what I mean? You don't know why you're doing it, but at the same time, it felt like it might kill me if I didn't do it. And I've had so much insecurity with punctuation, which I hate so much. So that went round and round with editors. And finally, I just thought, I'm going to tell it like I talk.
Yes.
I just had to get it out. I don't know.
That's the way it reads.
My dad died,
Yeah. Hey, Laura, why don't you give a little bit of Aimee's bio so she doesn't have to do it herself, because Aimee is one of the biggest and greatest songwriters in all of Nashville, with a history of hits that you won't recognize from her, but you've heard the songs before.
You're an extremely accomplished songwriter, and you're in the company of Taylor Swift and Dolly Parton with your songwriting. You've written some of the biggest hits: Amazed by Lone Star, songs for Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney, Martina McBride,
and
Sarah Evans, Carrie
Sarah.
Underwood. It goes on and on and on. And you've written so many of my favorite songs from growing up. And So you're just incredible.
Yeah.
And tell people this, you don't play an instrument.
I don't play an instrument at all. Everybody in our house plays an instrument but me. Like but I always loved words. Like words were my first love. I'd love to be able to play piano and guitar because that would be awesome. But I always put all my time into words. Like I've written to the point like I could be in a mental hospital. I've written so much.
We're like one of those journals they give you.
You could be a hit songwriter.
Well, I think when my dad, like I saw in that Buddy Holly movie, they were writing songs. And when I told my dad, I know what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a songwriter. And he was.
You're talking about the Gary Busey, the movie with Gary Busey
Yes.
about 25 years ago. This would be like, well, you were about, I guess, 15 to 20 at the time.
I was 8.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
You are awesome. You are awesome because Chris says I just leave out giant gaps of information. So Dennis is like fixing it because I'll say shit that people won't understand. Like,
well, Aimee's father was a very accomplished songwriter of his own, and also a rogue, as it were, and also somebody who suffered from bipolar disorder. And you guys had a very loving relationship. At the same time, it could be very tumultuous at the same time. But he wrote songs for like the Allman Brothers, for he's very accomplished on his own. Feed Jake, that was another one of his big songs. So you grew up with looking at your dad as something that you wanted to aspire to.
Yeah.
So take it from there.
Like he never encouraged me to be a songwriter because like I tried to sing this one thing. He told me I was tone deaf, but I was like, I didn't understand if I was tone deaf, why the teacher at school would like let me sing in the musicals. And so something inside me didn't believe him when he told me I was tone deaf. And all I ever wanted to do was write, and I always joke around that I found a way to make a living the one way a writer can without understanding punctuation, like as a songwriter, because you don't have to use it. Like writing has been my ventilation system from the night I got my first diary when I was 8. Like it's always, yeah, it's weird because those diaries kind of turned into this book.
Well, that's one of the things that really appealed to me about the book and about your story is that you are someone who heard all of your life kind of growing up like you're not going to be able to do this, and no, a lot of, when you came to Nashville, a lot of like you weren't accepted, rejection. You don't even play an instrument. How can you even, think of playing with anybody? For you have melodies and you have words in your head, and with all that, which you would call like handicaps, you were just very determined to get there, and finally people started to notice. And that's one of the things that I, as a reader's happened in my life. I got a lot of, when I first started as an actor, I got so much rejection. You got to be able to take like 99 no's to get a yes. And, you were very determined to do it.
That what you just said, like Chris always says that my biggest quality is I can take a beat and I'll get back up. Back up. I mean, like I will get back up. I would say that's my best quality too. Like, I mean, I guess that's how I sometimes I feel like I slipped into a different reality where this book is out, because that's how big of a struggle it was that I spent so long not knowing if I would ever finish it. And then finally I realized, my kids have watched me do this their whole life. If I don't put this book out, then that will have major consequences on them and their dreams.
Exactly. Absolutely. That's one of the things. Yeah.
To make
things I got from my mom
you get rejected.
Yeah.
What was it like, the process of sitting down and saying, I'm going to write a book about my life, and then going about doing such a colossal feat?
That's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that question. it's
I can tell you what
weird.
it's like for me, because I mean, people, somebody who's asked me to write a book now, and I keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, because it just seems like such a large mountain, like to climb. And I've lived my life, but I feel like, wow, how do
Trying
I
to put
wade
it all
through all that
together.
stuff, and how do I speak of it?
That's the thing about
So,
your
Yeah.
book, really. It had such a structure to it where
yes,
it really did read like a script. It
Well, that's
kind of-
what my dream has always been, for it to be a movie, because that was mine and my dad's thing. And this, in some ways, this book's a love letter to him a little bit. And like that was always our thing, going to the movies. And so like I started that book, and I didn't know it was a book. In the doctor's office, I had just finished reading The Glass Castle. I don't know if y'all know that
Mhm.
one, but
I didn't read it.
it was a movie. Woody Harrelson was like the dad.
Yeah.
But it made me think about my family. And so that's when I started it. And then I didn't know what I was doing. And that's part of why it took so long. And I took so many classes, because I did know that, like, it's hard to turn your family into characters, even when they
Yeah.
are characters,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
like you don't know how people are going to take them.
Your
Right.
dad is, I mean, you're the star, but he's kind of the star.
Yeah.
He's the biggest character I've ever seen in anything.
He
And,
really is.
He was bipolar.
Huge
and
personality.
So from one scene to the next, you love him and then you hate him. And
Yes.
you really captured the complexity of loving somebody who had those struggles. And what was that like? And what can you tell us about your dad?
My dad, I just loved my dad so
Yeah.
much. I mean, like, and it's weird, because other people who have read the book have kind of explained things to me that I didn't realize. Like, one lady said, I never doubted for 1 second you loved your dad and he loved you. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, okay,
Right.
I'm glad that came through,
He
because
did.
like I did love him. He was crazy, and he he did just things that were sometimes seemed almost unforgivable, but it was almost like he couldn't help it.
Mhm.
Well, that's what real love is, and it's when you love somebody in spite of themselves, is so many times. It's that that's the way life, and it goes in cycles, and it goes, and it also maybe progresses or degresses, or if that's a word. And it just, that scene, the scene that you described in your book of your dad going to Vegas, and he's got $300,000 in cash.
The fanny pack, right?
He's getting so loaded on the plane that the cash is spilling out onto the carpet there in first class, and he actually leaves like 50 grand just sitting on the floor that you picked up. And he doesn't even notice. It's just like, and that it's going to end badly. You just know it, and then of course, like, it does. But it's yeah, I mean, it's, if it happened, I know at the time that it was happening to you, it was like unbelievable. It very very kind of tragic to watch somebody go through that kind of episode, but at the same time, it's so funny. Like you said,
About my dad,
tragedy
that's
plus
not
time. Yeah.
with this story on the plane, because my dad would just pull out things from the past with my grandmother Opal.
Mhm.
And so on the plane, not only is there was $330,000 in that fanny pack, and money's everywhere, and
Picking it up.
I'm trying to pick it up, and my grandmother Opal is like, you could put both your kids through college and get them a house with that money. And he started screaming, like, Mom, shut up, mother. You spent all your money like sending it to Jim Baker for all his cocaine and hookers. so everybody's even working more because of that.
She's gonna go put it all in blackjack. Hey, for anybody who joined us late, we're here. I'm Dennis Quaid, and my lovely wife, the blonde in the black, Laura Savoy Quaid, and we're talking with Aimee Mayo about her incredible book, Talking to the Sky, which you all must go out and get, because you'll read it in a day. We did it. Couldn't put it down. But your dad was kind of like the Pied Piper, Santa Claus a little bit, and then he was also you know sort of eastbound and down.
Oh, he was totally eastbound and down.
You know,
Danny McBride reminds me so much of my dad because he's got that weird little quality when you can like be furious at him, but you still love him and want to help him somehow.
Yeah, and he's got his own logic going on.
Totally. What did you say just then? I missed
oh gosh, what was I saying?
You were saying something interesting. I can't remember what it was. And I'm looking for a magic marker. Sorry.
Can you take a fan question?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. What's the biggest takeaway you want your readers to get? This is from Greg in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
My favorite line in the book. Dennis, you've never read this line because I realized the other day, and you hadn't either. I realized the other day it wasn't even in the book. My favorite line, we screwed it up like when it was supposed to be at the very front of the book by itself because it was my favorite line. And then it wasn't even in the book. And I didn't know. Like one of those
kind of quotes you do at the beginning of a book that's supposed to kind of lead you into what the book is going to be about.
So it was never in the book. But
what was it?
It's all my greatest gifts have come wrapped in ribbons of pain. So that line, everything in life for me, and I think for most people, the most painful things you go through in life usually turn out to be the most beautiful things. You know, that's how we grow. And pain is a gift because you can't help other people if you hadn't gone. You're not going to listen to somebody who hasn't gone through something when they're trying to tell you how to deal with it.
Yeah, sometimes when we go through in relationships, when we go through that kind of pain, whether it be with your kids or with your parents or with your lover or wife or whatever, those things got to rip you both apart and test you to the very limit. But if you getting through them actually makes you closer to somebody and love them even more, and the relationship just deepens.
That's totally it. Like when somebody asks me what I hope they'll take from it, I just hope that it'll encourage people too to go after their dreams, and not give up, because I'm such an underdog. I loved when that bartender that worked at Brown's Diner where I worked for 40 years, he was telling when we went there to eat, he was like, Aimee was he's like, a lot of songwriters have come through Brown's, but Aimee was the longest shot there's ever been.
Let's get to that. Let's get to talking about that too. But you came to Nashville on your own. You in your clunky car, and with basically nothing at all. And it burned. It burned up on the highway.
Your dad.
Yeah, you got a job. You got a job at Brown's bar, and you were a waitress there.
Yeah. I got a job there.
Like Kenny Chesney and Kenny Chesney, and everybody would come in there and just to hang. Yeah, Cowboy Jack Clement.
Bad.
Yeah.
But Brown's that was the beginning of so many things for me.
How'd you know to go there?
What'd you say?
How'd you get a job at Brown's? I mean, how did you know? Did you just find out that
was the place? My dad sent me there.
Yeah.
And when he told me, I was like, that weird trailer place that serves the hamburgers, and he was like, yes. He's like, plus songwriters are everywhere there. And so when I went, I almost left, and then somebody famous walked in. Like so many famous people were there every day. It was Garth. Yeah. Garth came in there all the time. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so many famous people like Waylon and Chris Christopherson. And
we're talking late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, that's what we're talking back before they had exploded and became themselves. Became who they were.
What's weird too is this just made me think about this, because I met my first husband at Brown's, and I try not to read reviews, even though the reviews I've seen have been, so many of them make me start crying. They're emotional and so incredible. But there's been 2 reviews that I read, and you know how you remember the 2 things.
Right.
There's been 2 reviews that maybe I should have said something in the book, but I changed my ex-husband's name. So that's why if people are like, this did, some lady said, I don't even think this happened. I changed his name so they couldn't find it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that, like, that stuck with me because I'm thinking, oh, you have no idea how much this happened.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Like-
that's one of the three main relationships with men that you have in the book with your dad, your ex-husband, and of course your now husband of 20
21
something.
years.
So, yeah,
22
years.
years.
Chris, who is, it was got such a great guy, songwriting partner, and that's how you guys met. And but
He's
the
crazy
story
like
of your
my
ex
dad a
is
little.
the story of your ex is really, in reading the book, was really kind of, I felt very close in a way to trying to recreate the relationship with your father. And some sort of codependent way that went with it,
And crazy felt normal.
Mhm.
You
Yes.
know, if you were to get in a relationship with somebody normal, they felt crazy. Like just because I didn't grow up around anybody acting like that. That just was weird, super weird to me. I mean, like looking back now, it's like there were flags flying. Like I always joke the Talladega 500. There were just everybody was waving flags. I should have seen how messed up that was. Nobody tells you they love you on the third date and ask you to marry them, that fast. And like, I was just young. I mean, I was so young and naive. And he was the first person that ever wrote a song with me. So like, I was in love with writing songs.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like God has really looked out for me, like with Chris, because Chris came along and he's crazy enough, like my dad. And
Yeah.
then like he's
He's
got
also
that
got real
little bit of
discipline.
crazy. But
Yeah, he's also got real
actor.
discipline, and he's able to take what you have, which stuff just like pours out of you like a fountain, and he's there to like catch it and like preserve it. Every time we spend with you and you agree, Laura, I mean, there's at least 5 or 6 song lines that would work great in a song title that come out of your mouth without you even knowing it.
I mean, Amy's like magic dust all around her, like nobody I've ever met. And
that makes me feel good. I don't
it
even
comes
know.
out in the book, and I hadn't even met you yet. And then meeting you, it's like, wow, I get it.
I just love though, like how we met, and that book just brought such cool people into my life. I mean, it's amazing. Like I wish that, I look back and I think I beat myself up a lot because it took so long and like I was so hard on myself, but it's been worth it, and
Yeah.
I think to that line about all my greatest gifts, the book's the most painful thing I've ever done. And like you guys and
Yeah.
Dana Perino.
All
and
my
all
greatest
friends.
gift came wrapped in ribbons of pain. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, you came out there like that. You got the third date, you're going to get married and stuff. Didn't Dolly Parton find her husband on her very first day in Nashville?
Yeah.
They've been together
Formula.
50 years or whatever.
Yep. Yeah.
Incredible.
I love Dolly so much. Like
Oh.
she's in the book a couple times. Like I
Yeah.
just remember the first time. Well, she's on your new record too. Like that's
Yeah.
when does that come out?
Well, that's pending still. We still have to do it and get it ready. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it's really
love
exciting.
her.
I got to record with her the other day and she was amazing. But we're here talking about you. And,
I'll sidetrack so far.
yeah, but you were around these incredible people and you were just how you got it into like you were a songwriter and you knew it, and really the way your ex-husband, that's what you wanted to be led into.
Yeah, and everybody.
And it was really kind of what was implied, what it was going to be. You had this romantic kind of love song relationship, and and then it's the whole thing of it's so predictable, because it just happens all the time. But that's cliches are cliches because they're true. But
Yes.
what happened with that in that relationship.
I would love it if my book inspired like some girls to get out of relationships like that. I mean, that would just be, or maybe somebody's dating somebody and seeing some of those signs of a jealous psycho, and they're like, okay, I'm not doing this. You know what I mean? I would love to hear some stuff like, people telling me some stories like that, which I have heard just some wild stories, like from people. It's so interesting too, because like I've had some people say this is the most vulnerable book I've ever read, and it is like that, like being vulnerable to me, that was the least of my problems. I just had to finish it, you know what I mean? Like, but it gives permission to people for them to be vulnerable. So people come tell me these things. When you tell your truth, people like to tell you their truth, and you tell your story, they tell you theirs. And that's an amazing thing about the book. It's funny, like all these private school moms, like where last year I was so nervous what they would think about some of the stuff in the book, and they turned into different people. I mean, like all of a sudden, I've got like women contacted me that never talked to me that I thought were like these, like, and they just turned into different people because we're all so much the same.
I think that's what, Laura, I think that's really what attracted you to the book. You felt that a way that she was like telling your story in a way.
Yeah, I had it's very different circumstances, but at the end of the day, it's pain, which is part of the human experience, which we all have. And it was very relatable. And what was striking to me was I just got the takeaway that you're the most resilient, persistent, hopeful person. Is that something that was always part of you, or did you really cultivate that? And what did you do? And for people that have big dreams that seem to defy all odds, what would you tell them to keep working towards their dreams?
I think for me, I almost felt like I had to be that way to survive. You know what I mean? Like
there was no other way
in the environment I was in, like, because there was no other way. I mean, I had to be that way just to make it, but like, I think I think we all, like, we were just saying this, but we're all so much the same. Everybody's struggling with self-doubt and the same exact things. And it's like, and like you said about a cliche, I mean, we're all struggling with the same stuff. And like, it's so big to me that I just want people to go after their dreams, like what they really want to do. We only live one time. And I know, like, if I can write a book, I have more going against me on the book front than I do, like that, my OCD, like all that paper. I'll have to post that picture of all the, like, I had a whole bed, like a whole room full of paper of shredded drafts. It just took so long.
Right.
But it's just not giving up, like not giving up on something if your heart's telling you to do it. Like, I loved when you said that about being an actor, you get 99 no's, and then you get that yes. I mean, to me, like, I heard this thing about that actor Mark Ruffalo. He said that he said he went on 830 auditions before he got one little part.
Right. Yeah, that's probably true too. I think what you're talking about. I think what you're talking about is really pursuing your heart's desire in the end.
Yeah,
and everyone has their heart's desire. For you, it was a songwriter. For me, it was, being an actor. And we, that's the thing that we're supposed to pursue, because that's who we really are in a sense, instead of doing like, Laura, you just went through that too, rather than doing like the safe thing, or the thing that
what people think we should be doing, or following a formulaic path, and listening to your heart. And I mean, it's not always that easy to do
You
that.
you
but-
just made me think about something Chris always says, like that I love so much, because what you just said about what'd you say about what people think you should, is that it?
yeah,
Because Chris always
expectation
is like, people aren't thinking about you at all. They don't care what you do.
except your
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking
Yeah,
about
exactly.
except your
Yeah,
parents.
do the thing that you're supposed to do rather than the thing that you really want to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and these are said by people who are like concerned about us. You know,
This is a typical conversation for Dennis and I. We cut each other off all the time.
That's being
Anyway,
married.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a hit songwriter. Your book is out. What is your next dream? What do you want to do?
A movie. I want to go to the Oscars with y'all. That's my next dream. Like, and I think the story's there. I mean, I feel like it's there. It's just, I'm having faith. You know what I mean? That the right things are gonna fall into place. Like, because things happen bigger than you can plan them sometimes, or a lot of times. Like,
Especially
you know,
if you're
dream big.
and I want to do a killer soundtrack. Like, I want to make an awesome soundtrack, but I'm just going to be visualizing the Oscars. That's my thing. Like, just making a movie that people love, that moves people, that helps people, that makes them laugh and cry and feel something. I think, like, when you said that about reading like a screenplay, that, like, I think I didn't realize it at the time, but that was in my heart. Like, I wanted the dialogue to be like, it's so hard with a memoir, like, because you don't want it to be just an information dump, like, of all this is what happened. Because, like, you want it to be where people can, like, see their self in it, and like that. You never know with a memoir how people are going to take the people in your family. That was another thing that took so long, because I remember one person thought that my grandmother, like, she was in church every Sunday. They thought that she was mean religious, but she was awesome religious. You know what I mean? She didn't have a mean bone in her body. Like, but so that was the thing that I got into. Like, all those memoir classes helped me figure out that stuff. I'm going off the rails here, Laura.
Well, but all the people in your book they're real characters. They feel like real people, and instead of like caricatures or cliches or whatever. It's you see both sides of people, and it's that's what it is. Relationships with people, it's very complicated. The deeper you get in, the more complicated it gets.
I was telling this girl today, like, another line in the book that I love. We were talking about somebody she didn't like, and I was saying, I was talking about my granddad in the book with this line, but it's so true. It's like, it's hard to hate somebody that loves you. If somebody loves you, even if they're doing horrible things, like he beat my grandmother, beat a baby out of, just punched my mom when she was pregnant with me. He had that side to him, but that ain't everything he was. So it's very complicated when you get into family.
But you captured all of that, because even with Papa, you made him human. You could understand why he was maybe the way he was, and you also showed the good sides of everybody.
I hope I did. I really hope I did.
And that's hard to do,
because, like, you want, even my ex-husband, like, I want him to be happy and I wish him the best. I just don't want to deal with him anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I wish him happiness and healing, and I want him to be good and his family to be good. But everything, relationships are super complicated. Like,
I never felt that you were writing like about your ex-husband. I never felt like you were writing out of revenge or about any kind of like movement, or there's so many tales of women who have suffered abuse and been in abusive relationships and the like. the stories that should be told too, but the way you did it was just from somebody that was such an individual that I think someone can really relate to in all of the layers that are there,
Yeah.
that and
That's
kind of
what
make
I'm hoping.
sense with it.
And it's all of us.
And
Yeah.
I think too, like it's a big thing to me. I probably of anything the book could do, I would just love so much. Like if it encouraged and empowered somebody who's thinking about suicide, like because I'm lucky to even be sitting here. I mean, I came so close to dying. I mean, it was just I came so close, and that morning when I woke up in the psych ward, it was like I just wanted to get on my knees and thank God. Chris and me were talking the other night about nobody wants to die. I mean, nobody ever wants to die. They get in these, they don't want to be in pain. That's it, and they don't see a way out of the pain. That's
Right.
I'm pretty much sure that's it, regardless of what their situation is. Because it goes against our spirit to want to die.
Mhm.
Yeah, everybody always fights for their life, and but being in that kind of emotional pain, in that, which I've also been in before too. It just start to wonder if this is ever going to go away. And
Yeah.
it's not that you want to die, but you want, like you said, you want to live without feeling like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And
Except that you do have some reference, to like sometime in your past life when, whether it was when you were a kid or whatever, that, when you had some kind of like feeling of getting up in the day and how
yes.
great it felt to be alive. We all know how great it felt to be alive at one point.
I thought about something the other day, like in my life, whenever I'm having like a really shitty day and everything's going wrong and things are so messed up, usually something great's coming. That has
Yeah.
happened to me over and over, like where I just felt so hopeless. And then the next day get a phone call of something just awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I
Mm.
guess that's just what happens. Like, you live and you learn that things go up and down. They're not going to stay at that dark
Mhm.
negative spot. That
Mhm.
they're going to be great too.
And I think you wrote
Right.
in your book after there were a couple times where you were close to death with your car exploding and
And burning
Which is
down the
hilarious.
house.
burning down the house and the psych ward. And I think you wrote something about, God wasn't done with me. He's got something for me.
That's
And
what made me think it after
Yeah.
I almost like when I woke up that day in the psych ward, I was horrified by what I had done, but I also felt like that I was alive for a reason.
Mhm.
Like, and then I was ready to do everything different.
and that goes back to all my greatest gifts come in
Yes.
ribbons of pain.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I'm sure those experiences changed you and they filled you with this purpose and passion to be alive and to make your life mean something.
Yeah, it really changed everything. I
Mhm.
mean, like, and I was just thinking when, like, my dad shooting himself, that changed everything for him. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of messed up stuff in that book. I mean,
It
when
really is.
yeah, like, I mean, but
Hey.
it almost felt like, this is a weird word, but it almost felt predestined. Like the night that I got that diary when I was 8 for Christmas, I mean,
Mhm.
minutes after my dad had shot himself and the chaos going on, and my grandmother she let me pick the present, and I
Mhm.
knew it was from my Uncle Kelly by the wrapping paper, because he was always the fanciest. And I got that present, and then I opened the diary, on the same night that my dad
Mm.
shot himself. And I still remember that little diary, and like how like I wrote daddy shot himself, and I put SEF because I didn't know how to spell self.
Oh, wow. That was
just
your first entry in your diary?
What'd you say?
That was your first entry in your new diary.
My
Wow.
very first entry. It said daddy shot himself, SEF. And then I practiced writing Merry Christmas with one of
Wow.
those pens that have the 4 different colors. And I
Well-
did each color.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
what a
I've got a
psychiatrist could have
question.
done with that.
I've got a question from Marcy in Illinois. What's something
Your
you
dad
wish
survived
you
that. Your
could have
dad
told
did
your
survive
younger
that.
self?
Go ahead.
Oh, this is funny.
This is just, we do this all the time.
This is a funny
Yeah.
question. Did Dennis
What's
hear
you got a fan question, honey?
What's something you wish you could have told to your younger self?
I wish that I could have told my younger self, things are gonna be awesome and they're gonna work out, and focus on the faith instead of the fear. You know, like just believe good things are gonna happen. It's hard to believe good things are gonna happen, but like I'm still trying to do this right now. You know what I mean? Like trying to not focus on negative shit and worrying about stuff, and like to focus on what I want to happen, the good stuff. Like,
Right.
I don't know if I answered that question
No,
right.
Well, you answered it really well, I
Yeah.
think. But you know, it's just like that still goes on even after one reaches success, you know, which is also very related in your book.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think it's a good like picture of an underdog. I always love
Mhm.
underdog stories. Like, and I didn't realize how much of an underdog I was. Like that question, somebody asked me a question similar to that, what you just asked me, like about what did I wish I had known about like being a songwriter. And I was like, I don't wish I'd known anything because I wouldn't have done this if I did. Like I wouldn't have, if I knew, like I was kind of crazy to think it could happen to start with. So if I had known anything, I don't know what made me think I could do it to begin with. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just what my heart said to do. Like y'all were talking about, like you got to listen to that voice. You
Mhm.
know, like what inside that you know you're supposed to do.
What do you think that voice was for you?
God.
Yeah.
I think it was God, and like God just has shown me grace throughout my life, and over and over and over and over and over. You know what I mean? Like, and just the fact that I lived. I mean, like that to me, like, is the biggest like message of grace there could be.
Wasn't your time?
But I think it is God. I mean, I think like, and one thing I love about the title, man, I worked on this book for years before I knew what I was going to call it. And I was walking around in the driveway one night, and I was looking up, and I was just like, what am I going to call this book? And you know, like I've always gravitated to the sky, and like my eyes are always on the sky if I'm outside. But then it hit me talking to the sky, because it's like a prayer. It's like talking, if you're not religious, it's like talking to the universe, you know, like the stars, whatever's bigger and beyond, it's up there.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah.
So like to me that's always been like talking to God for me.
Yeah, it's an act of wonder.
Dreaming.
Yes, yes. That's 100%. And in Alabama, like you could see the Milky Way. It was like really magical.
Yeah.
And that comes through your story again and again. Just the different moments where you're yelling at the night sky,
Yes.
moments where you're daydreaming, and yeah,
It's
just
where like
captures
it's
it.
where we go with the big stuff, you know, that
Right.
we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's so hard to say what your book is about, because it's not just about songwriting. It's not just about domestic abuse or bipolar. It's about something bigger.
Okay, Laura, what do
Yeah.
you think it's about? Because it's so hard when people ask me, what's it about? It's like, oh my God, I don't even know where to begin.
I think it's about talking to the sky, and it's that something bigger that is,
in charge.
yeah, because
And-
it just seems like your whole life there was something watching out for you.
I feel
And-
like that's with all of us. Don't you
Yeah.
think? Like there's something guiding all of us. Like that voice you hear that's like, don't do that. You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
whatever that voice says. Like, I think we've all got that little spark in God, like inside us, telling us what we want to do when we are doing something that, you know, we we're kind of, every now and then as a songwriter, I'd get in situations where I felt like I was almost betraying myself. Like, oh my God, am I going to go write with this person who treated me like crap? You know, like, and I'm beating my own self up. Like I had one guy like tell me, well, go write me 4 more lyrics and then I'll tell you what I think. And it's like,
Right.
you were on American Idol and like a month ago, and now you've never written a song, and now you're in here telling me how to do everything. Like, and just some people are just jerks, you know, like
Yeah.
most people are nice, but some people are hard to deal with.
Yeah. You know, as deep as your book is too, I kind of feel like we should talk about it in a surface way, in a way, because it is as well as all that, because I also found it to be, you know, I was saying I've never read a story about a songwriter, especially in Nashville. It's great stars have come out of Nashville and everything, but it's the songwriter who really made Nashville. They're the ones who started it, and it's really that's who made it. And I've never really heard or seen their story in a book or on film. And you really capture the times of Nashville, you know, back to those kind of late 80s, like, you know, like with your dad that he participated in, and, you know, through the 90s and into the aughts, that just, you know, I think readers are going to, you know, they're going to love, you know, reading this stuff. It's because the people that have come in and out and in and out and in to your life have been, you know, it's fascinating. You attract people, you know, you're like a magnet with that.
I'm a magnet for all kinds of crazy stuff.
And your story is really this, you know, the story of Nashville during the really golden time.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty cool too, getting a front row seat and watching this whole deal. Listening to that made me think, you know, songwriters are the soul of Nashville.
That's right.
They really are. I always say, I don't even care how somebody can sing. If they don't have a hit song, Adele, if she's singing a crappy song, nobody cares. You know what I mean? But
because it's Adele's voice.
Great song, and they will hurt you with it. They will just tear you apart with it.
And I think it's so cool. You hear these songs on the radio and the words move you and make you feel a certain way. And we may know things about the artist performing them, but the person who wrote those words, those are really the heart and soul of Nashville. And to hear the story of somebody who wrote these words that have touched a lot of people and where that came from.
It makes me think, there's this quote by Robert Frost, and it says, no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. So like no tears in the writer, no tears in the listener too, kind of.
Right.
Like, because people feel the truth. You recognize the truth.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can always tell when somebody's faking it, you know, and that's for the songwriter, you know, the words are really important. I mean, that's, you know, I think back to my favorite songs in my life, and it's the words more than anything that attracted me to what it was about, because I felt it was, you know, that was me, or, you know, it was part of my generation or whatever. It's the words.
And it takes you back so quick.
Phrase.
Oh yeah.
I heard like a little bit of Jesse's Girl, like, come on, the other day. My kids all know about Rick Springfield and everything. And like, I heard the and it's just like I'm 13. Every time I hear it, I feel that same feeling.
And there's something potent about the words with the melody and how the two can just evoke a feeling.
Yes. I mean, nothing can take you back so fast as that.
Yeah.
Like there's this Bryan Adams song Heaven, and I swear every time I hear it, I smell like the gym floor and this boy's leather jacket in ninth grade, and we're slow dancing to Heaven by Bryan Adams. And like, I'm right back there every time I hear that song. And people tell me that with Amaze. Like, and when I hear Amaze in that little,
oh gosh, it's incredible.
I feel the same feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I get the same feeling right here in my chest when I hear that song. You know, and you know, I think I kind of feel like that's I wish I'd written that song because that's about Laura and me. You know, it's just so much.
It's not about us, it's about
You know,
you.
but well, that, you know, and I think anybody who loves somebody is going to, you know, it feels that, you know, that's their song. You know, like couples have songs and stuff like that because it kind of it expresses their feelings for them much more than a Hallmark card.
About that song, about Amaze, is that you look at the lyrics and they're kind of simple, but
Mhm.
feel that behind it there was so much heart. There was, you know, real emotions going into it, and it comes out.
It's weird because like for me, like in songs and stuff, I never want to say a word in a song I wouldn't say to somebody. You know what I mean? Like somebody sent Chris a song the other day to look at, and like I would never put the word embrace in a song because I've never said that word ever. Like, yeah, come here, let me embrace you real quick. Like I never put that in, like even though like you could rhyme it it was a perfect rhyme sometimes, but like I like it's just like a little letter. Like, you know,
Right.
no
Right.
matter what. And it's a cool feeling too. Like I went through a phase where I wrote so many songs about death. I mean, like there's a lady that writes books about death, like Carolyn Cooper Ross or somebody. I felt like I was the Karen Kubler Ross of country music because like I just kept, after my dad died, I just kept trying to get that out of my system, you know, writing these songs. And like,
So did you consciously do that, Aimee? Did you consciously kind of realize that what you're going through, and I'm consciously going to write a song about what I'm going through?
yeah, well, kind of like, because for me, songs too have been my diary. So like if that's what I was going through, then I would just start writing it out, and then it would turn into a song. You know what I mean? Like if we sat down to write and I was like with my friend Bill Luther or Chris or somebody or Mark Green, I would just be like, I was writing this the other night or whatever. Like, and that's how, like, that's that same thing about when you're going through loss. I mean, like, that's one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest thing you'll ever go through. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and I've read things people have written to me about some of those songs that just floor me. I mean, because it's back to that same thing, you know, we're all going through the same stuff. People are losing people, having babies, falling in love, you know, all the things at different times.
Yeah. Well, you know, your relationship with Chris, which is the third relationship, you know, with a guy in there, was that kind of grace that you know, came to find was such a big part of that, which I don't think you could have had that relationship had you not gone through everything that you went through.
Oh
in a
my
way.
gosh, I love that. I can't wait to tell Chris that. I think that is exactly right. And I have never thought about that in my life.
We all have to try out what we think we know best. You know, that's the only thing we know how to do. You know,
and Chris to me is always like in our vows. He wrote them like his vows to me, and he was like saying, you know, I'll always protect you. And he's 6'5". I was like, okay, I need you to protect me. Like I knew, you know, I always felt safe with him. We were best friends for so long, and we wrote so many songs together, and like he was the perfect ending to all this other shit before him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it made me appreciate him. Like, but he's like the total opposite of any other man in my life that's ever been in my life.
Yeah.
You guys have such a beautiful relationship, and you've written incredible songs together. And what's it like working together?
We write together, like when we're in the writing room, we have a code word, like if we're gonna fight, called popsicle. So if we're in there, somebody says popsicle, it's like shut the F up and go outside. We're gonna deal with this outside. Like, because we've just left people sitting in the room before. That singer Rodney Aikens, we left him like at BMG. I thought Chris went back. He thought I went back. Like, we'll fight in the room. I mean, like, we will do it, like all the time. He gets on my nerves because he's like over there making tracks, and it's like, I'm gonna run out of like, I'm not even gonna feel like doing this in 2 hours when you're done with that. I mean, like, so we have learned though, like, we're better off just like a piano or a guitar in us than a bunch of Pro Tools stuff.
Yeah. Well,
But I love working with him.
Laura and I just we love your relationship. The relationship you guys have, it's an amazing relationship.
He's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Do we have time for one more fan question before we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me find a good one. We've touched on a lot of this. How old were you when you wrote your first song, Shannon from Austin, Texas?
I was 8 years old, and I have a little 45 record. I need to post that song. I have a little 45 record because I just seen that movie, The Buddy Holly Story, with my dad, and we were going up to my grandmother's in this old truck, and I told they wrote songs in the movie, and I saw it, and I told him, I was like, when I grow up, I know what I'm going to do. And he's like, what? And I said, be a songwriter. And then I told him the title I had. He's like, well, what makes you think you can do that? And I said, because I got a title. And he was like, what's your title? And I was like, if only I could hold you again, I'd never let you go. And then he said, I'd always let you know you had a friend if only I could hold you again. And so we had the chorus, and I didn't know, but he went and demoed it and made that little record.
Your dad did?
Yeah.
Oh wow. You wrote a song with your dad. You co-wrote it right off the bat.
I think that might be the only song we ever wrote.
Wow. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, what a story. I mean, that's such a bonding thing.
It's
great.
And you know what's weird? I didn't realize till after the book, I was talking about him. Like, if only I could hold you again, I'd never let you go, because my parents had just got divorced.
Right.
But he was talking about my mom.
Oh wow.
Like, so it was a crazy thing.
Right.
But there's so many things I didn't realize till after.
Wow.
You know, like that.
Right.
Life is crazy like that. How you look back and then it makes sense.
Yeah,
right.
Like so many things in your life, like even getting that journal, it was all set up, and looking back, you could kind of see all the dots sort of connecting. Yeah. But in the moment,
yeah,
see that.
It's true, because you don't see it, like, and things seem sometimes random, but one thing, like, you know, like that thing about that's finally in the new edition of the book, my favorite line, you know, that thing, it's true. I mean, like that's how, you know, the biggest gifts come to us. Usually we got to go through pain to get there.
The greatest gifts that you have ever had in your life came wrapped in ribbons of pain. I think that's fantastic. And is this an hour? Is that what we're doing? We're trying to put bookends on this thing. Well, let me say this. You know, everybody out there listening, watching, whatever you're doing, please, there it is, Talking to the Sky. Go out and get it. Yeah, call Aimee. She'll be putting up her phone number, right? Oh, I guess we're not doing that. But you've got to get this book. It's such a great read. And like I said, Laura, found it, and it was just out, and it came to me that about how much she loved it. She read it in a day. I read it in a day, and we went to Aimee because we want to make this into a movie. It's just so good. It's such a great story.
Okay.
And relatable. So please go out and to buy it. Well,
great Christmas present.
Yeah.
Yes.
No
And
supply chain issues here either.
Like the one place you can get it signed.
Yeah, Amy's gonna sign them.
Yeah, you can order them on that link, and I can sign them for presents and stuff.
That's right.
Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having you, and thank you, Laura, for getting this together. And this has been great. I had a really good time.
With you.
Now I'm gonna go off. And work. I gotta go work.
You make loving fun.
Oh.
It's always fun with you. I love that.
There we go.
That's a good ending.
Yeah.
It's always fun with y'all. Oh, I think we got the song right.
Yeah. All right. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Especially love you.
Love you
Laura.
too.
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching today.